Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting. Anna, Carol, and Kim, did you guys know Larry's going to be here? Okay, I'd like to call our meeting to order. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, will you call the roll?
Yes, Trustee Lautner.
Here.
Trustee Zora.
Here.
Trustee Council.
Here.
Trustee Sheehan.
Here.
Trustee Stewart. Here. Trustee Caputo.
Here.
President DeCipio.
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. I'd like to just make one announcement before we move on to public participation. A past trustee of ours, Mike Sabella, is sick. He's not doing very well at this time. We got a notice from his daughter. He's in the hospital right now, and I just want all our thoughts and prayers to go to Mike and his family. He's been a great addition to our trustees, and he's been an advocate for our village for his whole life. He's lived here. Class Act. He serves on our police commission now. So just all our thoughts and prayers for Mike and his family. I'd like to move on to public participation. We also have a guest with us tonight who's here, who's going to speak first. Chief Kenny, would you please come up?
Good evening, everybody. Mr. President, Board of Trustees. It's a little weird for me to be on this side of the pulpit at this point. I think I like this part better. I wanted to come tonight just to share something with all of you that you probably already know, but something that's really important to me. So back on the 5th of July, my son Patrick and my daughter-in-law Abby and my two granddaughters, Caroline and Maeve, live in LaGrange Park, and chose LaGrange Park because of the community and because of the warmth that they felt when they were looking for homes, and they were right on the button. And I've had 40 years of working with LaGrange Park, both in Hinsdale and in Western Springs. On July 5th, there was a pretty good thunderstorm that came through. My son called about 6:30 and said, "Dad, there's a primary line down between our house and another house." And I said, "Stay in the house and wait, and let me know if you smell smoke." And about 30 seconds later, before he ever got off the phone, I heard the door, and it was a firefighter, said, "You need to get out." Well, the line had jumped, hit the attached garage, and electrified the house. Started the garage on fire, then started the house on fire. And I took off from, I live in Downers Grove, to head in. And it's the first time I was ever in a car with no lights, no siren, and no radio. And I had no idea what kind of trouble they were in. Luckily, my granddaughters were at their uncle's house, so the trauma of having to leave your home and everything, they were spared that. I got there, and Chief Magus was in an incredibly difficult position. I probably did it a handful of times in my career where we couldn't make entry into a house because it was electrified. And you can't go in at that point. You put your people in danger. He knew everybody was out. It's a structure. But it's a horrible feeling to stand with a family standing behind you, watching their home go, and there's nothing you can do except wait until somebody cuts the power. Easy decision for Dean? Absolutely. Takes a lot of courage, 100%. And Dean, thank you for what you did that night in a very difficult position. More importantly, what I came for tonight, not about tactics, was to tell you the response by the fire department, by the police department, by the people who treated my family that night was outstanding. I watched it. I walked down that block when I got there, and I took one look at that house, and I knew after 40 years that the house was gone. And then, as I always told my people that I was blessed enough to work next to, it's not about always the end result, because you're not always going to make a difference. You're not God. You're not always going to save a house or a life. But those people who are surviving that incident, that emergency, the worst day of their life, you can help to make them feel better by the way you react. And I can tell you, the members of the LaGrange Park Fire Department, what I watched in terms of how hard they worked for salvage and overhaul to make sure they saved as much of the house as they could. For the way my family was treated during the entire incident, giving them updates about what was going on. Why are we not doing what we're doing? Why are we doing what we're doing? Afterwards, all the way through walking through that house, which I can tell you, and Dean was kind enough to let me go through with my family, was one of the worst journeys I've had, to watch my granddaughter's crib full of plaster and soot. And having been on the other side of it for all those years and thinking I had a lot of empathy for families, which I think I did, I hope I did, it was a whole nother feeling that night and how they were treated with love and respect help them get through that night and help them get back on their feet to keep going. And I'm very proud to say, great resilient parents. House is going to get rebuilt. They will once again become very proud LaGrange Park residents. The neighbors they have in that neighborhood. I grew up in the city and we had a neighborhood, and it reminded me very much of that neighborhood because everybody was all in that night. And everybody since then has been all in from this community. So I really appreciate the chance to just say to you tonight, you have a great fire department. You have great public safety, because I had the honor to work also with the police department when we were working on dispatch. You also have an amazing community of people. I call it an old-fashioned community of people who care, and I watched it that night. And you couldn't have been more prouder, and I couldn't have been more proud to have been a firefighter than I was that night because of the way people were treated. So I thank you. Chief Magus, please pass on to all of your people how they treated my kids that night. I will never forget it. And for all of you, you set the tone for how the department operates, and you certainly have something to be very, very proud of. So thank you for your time tonight. I sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. And yes, you're absolutely correct. We have a phenomenal public works and fire department and police department and administrative staff and everyone down the line. But please tell Pat and your family if we're here for them, if there's anything we can do. I know there's a benefit next Friday night, I think it is, August 2nd or August 4th, whatever that is, at Hop District. So we'll be there, and if there's anything that Pat or anyone needs in the meantime, please reach your hand out to us. We'll be there. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much. 25 years of board meetings, I'm leaving.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, everybody. God bless. Thanks.
Anyone else care to address the board? Sandy, Kim, Pat, Carol, Anna? Okay, we'll move on then to consent agenda. Megan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The items on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of minutes. 1, Village Board meeting June 27th, 2023. 2, Village Board closed session meeting June 27th, 2023. 3, Village Board work session meeting July 11th, 2023. B, action, accounts payable and payroll summary. Motion 1, to authorize the President and Chairperson of the Finance Committee to sign the register for bills and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. And motion 2, to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and the next village board meeting, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees at its next meeting.
Motion to approve a consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion?
I need a motion.
Motion, someone?
So moved.
Second? All those, Megan, call the roll?
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Yes. Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. I think this next issue has us all kind of in a funk here. So, Village Manager report, Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 4 items to report on this evening, one of which is included in the board packet as you just introduced. The first item, I'd just like to continue on with what Chief Kenny said earlier in public comment. Kudos and thank you to the fire department for their work on the fire. I think their work was outstanding, and with the support provided by the police department. Secondly, I'd like to report on the recent car show that took place by the police department. It was the first ever car show, and it had over 72 entries. It was very well attended, so I'd like to say congratulations to the police department for their work. Everybody had such a great time there. The next item I would like to report on is regarding the Commercial Revitalization Committee. We had a meeting planned previously this evening at 6 p.m. Unfortunately, we had to cancel that. We are going to reschedule that meeting and continue on that agenda for August 22nd at 6 p.m. So thank you to everyone for their patience. Thanks to Sandy for getting all the notices out so quickly so that everybody had that information. So that's 3 items, so that brings me to the 4th. So the 4th item is regarding the finance director position. Some background related to the finance director position. As you know, that position is currently vacant, and we are receiving assistance from Dan Wiersma as an interim director. Earlier in May of this year, our finance director resigned from the position to accept a similar position in another community. And upon receipt of that notice, we solicited applications through our recruiting agency for a new recruitment to fill the position, and our agreement with GovHR allowed for that. Ultimately, the village selected a top candidate, Larry Knoller, for the position. Larry Knoller is in the audience this evening with his wife, Allison. Most recently, Larry worked as the finance director for the village of Glen Ellen until Friday. Prior to that, he served as our own finance director for 8 years, and during his tenure here, Larry was responsible for the GFOA Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for 3 consecutive years. Additionally, he guided the village with new banking, collateral, and investment agreements. He also facilitated the development of the village's fraud policy, the police pension funding policy, and he led the implementation of our new BS&A ERP software system. And so much more. You're a showstopper, Larry. What I was saying is, and so much more. Prior to his 8 years in LaGrange Park, his first round in LaGrange Park, Larry served as the assistant finance director for the city of Wheaton and as the interim and assistant finance director for the village of Glen Ellen. Larry somewhat recently, about a year ago, received or achieved the GFOA Public Finance Officer certification and has a Master of Public Administration with a specialization in fiscal administration from Northern Illinois University. He also has a Master of Science in Environmental Science from the School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University. And Larry has his undergraduate degree in geology, achieving a Bachelor of Art from St. Louis University. Larry's first day of work is July 31st, and he will be sworn in tonight. So disregard whatever comments are on the staff memo. So that concludes that portion of the background of my report, Mr. President, but what we do need is for someone to make a motion so that we can appoint Larry Knoller, and then we can swear him in with the village clerk.
Thank you, Julia. Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and Village Board of Trustees, it is my honor to submit a motion to appoint Larry Knoller as Finance Director and Village Treasurer effective July 31st, 2023.
Second.
The motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Lautner?
And as I said, it's my honor and excited for the professionalism and the expertise of the return of Larry Knoller as our Finance Director. Glad that you're here again.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Zora?
We are very happy to see that you're back, Larry. Thank you.
Welcome back, Larry. Glad to have you. And with that, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart? Yes. Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
You can come on up, Larry. Oh, you can go right here.
Okay, that way everybody, so that everybody can see you. Okay, I'm just gonna say the whole thing. You just have to- Okay. Please raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you, Larry Knoller, having been duly appointed to the office of Finance Director and Village Treasurer in the Village of LaGrange Park in the state of Illinois, do solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and you will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of LaGrange Park Village Treasurer to the best of your ability. If so, say I do.
I do.
Congratulations. Welcome back.
Before you go, Larry, did you want to introduce your wife who is in the audience this evening?
Yes, I'd like to thank very much for my wife, Allison Murphy. She's in the audience there. And I'd also like to acknowledge that the finance staff, Kim, Carol, and Anna, and Sandy are out there supporting me. So thank you very much for coming. It means a lot to me.
I'll give you a shake. Thank you so much. So glad. Can't wait for Monday. So glad.
Larry, I got to tell you, it's got to mean a lot to you to have your staff here tonight. We see it when the police department has promotions and the fire department has promotions, and now we see it with the administration. You couldn't be in a better place. They're a great group of people. You know that. Thank you, Larry. Kim, Sandy. Okay, moving on, we have Administration Committee, Trustee Council.
Thank you, President DeCipio. The report is as follows. Seasonal water restrictions exist from May 15 through September 15. Residents and businesses are reminded to conserve water and follow the village's seasonal watering restrictions. Odd street addresses may water on odd-numbered calendar days, and even street addresses may water on even calendar days. Village news. Residents are encouraged to sign up for the village's weekly electronic newsletter, also known as e-briefs, to stay up to date on important local news. E-briefs includes regular updates to keep residents informed of construction projects, community events, and much more. To subscribe, visit the village's website, navigate to the How Do I page, and select Sign Up for e-briefs newsletter. And that concludes the report of the administration for July. The next item is the appointment of an IMRF authorized agent. The background on this is the Village of LaGrange Park participates in the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, also known as IMRF pension plan, which covers all the village's full-time employees other than police officers. Participation in IMRF requires the village to appoint an authorized agent. This individual represents the village with IMRF and is responsible for administering all of IMRF's various rules and regulations within the village organization. Currently, the village manager holds the position of authorized agent until the finance director position is filled. Staff recommends that the village board appoint the finance director, Larry Noller, with an effective date of July 31st, 2023. This item is for discussion and action. Therefore, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. President, to approve a resolution appointing an IMRF authorized agent.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. Trustee Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I stated a while ago, I'm very happy that Larry is back with us, and I fully support his engagement in our village. He's very well read, and I think he has served our village very well in the past, and I fully support everything that he recommends the village do. So I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Trustee Council. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Council.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Moving on, Building and Zoning Committee, Trustee Zora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to report the building department activities for June of 2023. 80 building permits were issued in June compared to 124 in June 2022. The pace of permit submittals this month has decreased and appears to be slightly behind the pace of submittals at this time last year. Estimated construction costs for the month were just over 1.4 million, which is significantly less when compared to just slightly over 5 million in June 2022. This is due to several large permits which were issued last year in June. Permit fees collected were just over $31,000, which is less than collected in June 2022, but proportional to the estimated construction costs for this month. 234 inspections were conducted this past June compared to 189 in June 2022. 8 were not approved. The building department completed a total of 68 plan reviews last month, 58 reviews approved, 10 denied. Total of 8 new code enforcement cases were recorded last month. Site development work at the former Nuclear Society building site is nearly completed, and the construction of new single-family homes at Kensington Place will be starting in the coming days. The demolition permit for the site of the new Aldi store project has been issued, and work has already begun. And then I have 2 items for discussion and action. The first one is on generators in the side yard. Recently, village staff has been approached by residential property owners regarding the zoning requirements for generators. As severe weather and power outages have become more common, backup power devices are seen by many property owners as essential. Per section 153.193C of the village's zoning code, generators may only be located in rear yard and setback. C, electrical generators may be located only in the rear yard, may encroach into the rear setback, but must be at least 10 feet from any lot line. Generators are prohibited in the front, interior side, or corner side yards and setbacks. Staff has observed that given the other improvements typically found in rear yards, patios, decks, sheds, many owners have difficulty accommodating a standby generator in the rear yard. The installation of a permanent standby generator requires interconnection to the electrical and natural gas supply at the house. Considering that existing electrical service and natural gas lines connections on most residences are located in the side of the house, when generators are located in the rear yard, the necessary electrical and gas connections are longer and are more prone to future damage, thus making them more costly for residents. In addition, most modern residential standby generators are purpose-built with a single-family homeowner as a target customer. The industry is consolidated around 3 main manufacturers whose generator specifications offer comparable performance, similar installation clearance requirements, and operational noise levels. Consequently, the village has received requests to locate generators in the side yard, but the side yard is not a permitted location under the current rules and regulations. The Village of the Grange Park is the applicant, is proposing text amendments to section 153-193C, section 153.194, and section 153.304 of chapter 153 zoning of the Grange Park Municipal Code pertaining to generators. The text amendments will allow generators to be placed in the interior side yard, will add requirements related to noise screening, generator testing, and will revise the definition of an electrical generator. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on May 16, 2023, and continued the hearing to June 20th, 2023. The applicant attended the hearing and provided testimony. The minutes from the meeting is in our packet. Upon conclusion of the public hearing on June 20th, 2023, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval unanimously of the zoning text amendments by a vote of 6-0. Staff concurs with the recommendation of Planning and Zoning. I would like to make a motion to approve an ordinance granting a zoning text amendment to allow generators to be placed in the interior side yard, case number 23-0010.
Motion, do I have a second? Second. Motion and second, discussion, trustee Zora?
Yes, so I did speak with staff about this because I just wanted to clarify something. My initial concern was that there would be more noise if this was located in the side yard, but after really thinking about this, our yards are pretty small, and it really doesn't make any difference if it's in your rear yard or your side yard, because when it's placed in your rear yard, it's about the same distance from the property line anyway. So, so I think that's a moot point. That was really my only concern. I think with the village code, there's going to be screening requirements and other concerns that will be addressed. And I also want to make mention that every person in this village won't be allowed to have it in their side yard because some won't not fit. So they may end up being in the rear yard anyway. So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, trustee Zora. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, staff was pretty forthcoming with the questions I had before it went to the zoning committee. It's just my hope that in the future, that if this does pass tonight, that staff does the usual good job of communications as far as testing and what the hours are. Trustee Zora's right, you know, the side lots, some can be tight. I don't want to, you know, where it comes down to pitting neighbor against neighbor with the noise. So if we can just do like we always do a great job of communicating what the rules are. and i.e. enforcement, then I would fully support this as written.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Any other comments? Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, my only concern was the testing hours, and I think that staff and the Planning and Zoning Committee did a good job of bounding what was appropriate for testing this on an ongoing basis. So that was my only concern.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart? Yes. Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you. I have one more item. The Community Park District of the Grange Park is the applicant, which they are also present tonight, is seeking to renovate Beach Oak Park located at 902 West Oak Avenue. The subject property is located in the OS Open Space Zoning District with properties to the north and south zoned R1 single family residential and properties to the east and west zoned R2 family residential. Beach Oak Park is bordered by Oak Avenue to the north, Beach Avenue to the east, single family homes to the south, and the IHB Railroad to the west. Currently, the 0.6 acre park has 2 basketball courts, 1 multi-use court, 2 playgrounds, and 1 picnic shelter. In 2022, the Community Park District Board of the Park Commissioners unanimously voted and approved and adopted the 2022-2027 Comprehensive Master Plan, which identified the renovation of Beach Oak Park as a top priority. The Park District prepared various concept plans to redesign Beach Oak Park, and residents provided feedback on those, resulting in the plans which the applicant has submitted. Per section 153.060B of the Village Zoning Code, any modifications of outdoor recreational areas that include the construction of new buildings, accessory structures, and/or exterior lighting are subject to site plan review. Additionally, in accordance with section 153.057, the applicant is seeking the following variations. 1, to increase the area of the picnic shelter from 120 square feet to 336 square feet. 2, to reduce the lengths of the required fencing and 5-foot tall shrubs for 3 separate boundaries along the south and southeast lot lines of the subject property that abut adjacent residential properties as depicted in the landscaping plan, prepared by JSD Professional Services and dated May 24, 2023. The variation dimensions for each boundary lines are 1, from 125 feet to 111 feet of fencing, and from 125 feet to 56 feet of 5-foot tall shrubs. 2, from 50 feet to 25 feet of fencing, and from 50 feet to 0 feet of 5-foot tall shrubs. 3, from 40 feet to 0 feet of fencing, and from 40 feet to 0 feet of 5-foot tall shrubs. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing regarding the application of June 2023. The applicant attended the hearing and provided testimony. The minutes are in our packet. Upon conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the variation to increase the area of the picnic shelter by a unanimous vote of 6-0, and approval of the variation to reduce the lengths of the required fencing and 5-foot tall shrubs by another unanimous vote from 6-0. Staff concurs with the recommendations of Planning and Zoning. I would like to make a motion to approve an ordinance granting variations for 902 West Oak Avenue in Beach Oak Park, case 23-0013.
A motion to a second.
Second?
Discussion, Trustee Zora?
Thank you. So I do agree with what Planning and Zoning approved, and I also wanted to commend you for getting a grant for this. I think it's great, and it'll be a great improvement to the committee or the community. And that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Zora. Any other comments? I would like to ask Jessica Kennedy is here with us tonight. She's the Executive Director of the Park District. Jessica, would you like to add anything to it?
Thank you, President DeCipio. On behalf of the Park District Board of Commissioners and staff, I wanted to thank the village staff for working through this process with us. The variations that have been requested are kind of modernized requests for landscaping and architecture for the parks. So specifically Maggie, Chris, and Rick have been great working with JSD and our staff to make, to bring this plan to the board and to the community. So something that's been in the works since 2011, so we're super excited. Should everything pass and we're in good shape, please save the date for September 5th at 10 a.m. because that'll be our groundbreaking. So, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica. Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, a question for Jessica. Was through the course of this preparation, were there any residential concerns that were expressed, and then how were those addressed?
Absolutely. So the one that comes to mind is the initial plan called for grills, charcoal grills at the location because it is a residential park. Residents came forward and said this is not something that we care to have adjacent to our homes, so they were removed. So we also worked with the neighbor that is directly adjacent to the park to run past the landscaping and fencing ideas and to get their support as well.
I just want to clarify that Jessica's referring to the feedback from neighbor groups that the Park District held. As I recall, there were no neighbors that showed up during the public hearing on the variations.
No.
Okay. So it was all,
So from
the
village's
all
standpoint-
informal.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Any other comments? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner,
Yes.
Trustee Zara,
Yes.
Trustee Council,
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan,
Yes.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
Trustee Caputo.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Jessica, and the Park District.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on, engineering capital projects, Trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unique Plumbing Company continued work on the Park Road water main replacement project. The water main has been installed under the west sidewalk on Park Road from Harding Avenue to Ogden Avenue. The tree augering segments along Park Road and Richmond Avenue were also completed. The north section of the water main between Hardin Avenue and Woodline Avenue was pressure tested and coordinated. In July, the next steps will be to pressure test and coordinate the south section of the water main between Ogden Avenue and Woodlawn Avenue and begin installing the new water services. Design work has begun for the Harrison and Morgan Avenue resurfacing project. The project involves reconstruction of the deteriorated drainage structures, replacing sections of curb and gutter, driveways and sidewalks, and resurfacing both Harrison and Morgan Avenue between 26th and 29th Street. The project will be financed by MFT funds. Plans and specifications will be submitted to IDOT for review and approval in July. The project may then be led for bidding and construction. Soil borings were taken by TSC at various locations of the Central Area Sewer Separation Project. The geotechnical report will be delivered in July and renewed. The report will be used to help design deep excavations for the lift stations and the box culvert installation, which is deeper than typical sewer construction. The samples will also be used to determine the groundwater elevation, detect the presence of non-special waste, and other parameters that are critical during construction. And that concludes my report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Moving on, Public Safety Committee, Trustee Caputo.
Thank you, President DeCipio. I'm going to start out with the police summary of activities for June of 2023. The total number of crimes reported for the first 6 months of 2023 are 4.8% lower than last year, with 163 incidents reported this year compared to 171 in 2022. The traffic enforcement is at 683 total tickets issued through June of 2023. Overall police activity for the month of June is 13% lower to last year, with 1,073 total incidents reported in the month of June 2023 compared to 1,226 total incidents in the month of June of 2022. Of those 1,073 total incidents, 78 were assisted to the fire department, 281 were self-initiated building or park checks, 138 were traffic stops, and 53 were closed home checks. All sworn department members took part in outdoor firearms training qualification that was held in Lamont. All sworn members of the department took part in an 8-hour rapid deployment and room clearing class put on by Officer Tim Burry. This class meets some of the mandated training hours topics required throughout the Safety Act. Department members attended 260.5 hours of training, along with the completion of required monthly online training and Lexipol daily training bulletins. Police department staff took part in the Wounded Warrior Ride and assisted with road closures as bicyclists traveled through the town. The AXON XN Fleet 3 in car cameras were installed, and after a few hiccups, all cameras are functioning properly. The Board of Police Commissioners interviewed all candidates that passed the written test phase of the police officer hiring process and compiled a list based on the scores. The police department has begun the process of filling vacancies from that list. Don't miss out on the upcoming National Night Out event taking place on Tuesday, August 1st from 6 to 9 p.m. at Memorial Park. Follow the police department on our social media platform and village websites for further details. Please follow the police department on Facebook page at LaGrange Park Police Department, our Twitter account at LaGrange Park PD, and Instagram at LaGrange Park PD. A friendly reminder about securing one's personal property at all times. Please lock your vehicles and residences, especially during overnight hours. If you're on vacation, please utilize the new online vacation watch portal, frontlinepss.com/LaGrange Park, or log onto the village website and access the portal under the police department page. If you do not have internet access, feel free to fill out the vacation watch card at the police department between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Please contact us if you have any questions or need any further information. And that concludes the police report. Now I'm going to go on to the fire report. EMS incidents this month, 151. There has been 912 year-to-date compared to 864 year-to-date in 2022. Fire rescue incidents this month was 53. There have been 190 year-to-date compared to 215 year-to-date in 2022. Station 1 was staffed to help cover the north end of LaGrange for fire and EMS response during the pet parade. Our engine, 1221, was in the parade along with Evan Lilly's former LaGrange Park engine. Personnel underwent annual fire department physicals at Fire Station 1 in the mobile health unit. The Foreign Fire Insurance Board purchased 6 new PFDs for water rescue. Firefighter Steve Norvillis retired from our department this month after 33 years as he has been hired as fire chief for LaGrange Park Police Department. Also, PSI paramedic firefighter Pat Shields and Chelsea Dennis had their last days of employment as they both were hired FT by fire districts. We wish them all luck. Personnel conducted CPR training for 22 members of the Park District and 1 member of LTACC. Personnel conducted various training exercises at the Village Market Building, which is scheduled for demo, which, as we know, is underway, including a joint training session on search and rescue with the Western Springs Fire Department. Personnel attended hazmat training at Brookfield Zoo, as various chemicals are used in maintaining aquatic life support systems, the power plant, the animal hospital, fleet services, and for other activities. Personnel assisted with supporting the Wounded Warrior Project Soldier Ride as well. A few incidents to note. Friday, on June the 2nd at 3:13 p.m., the fire department responded to a vehicle crash behind Murphy's Automotive where a car struck the building and severely damaged a ComEd pole. In order to safely remove the driver, personnel had to cut the driver's door off. ComEd secured the police pole prior to vehicle removal. And on Wednesday, June 7th at 2:43 p.m., the fire department responded to the 500 block of Park for a gas leak when a contractor worker on a water main hit a gas line. And also on the 7th of June at 3:31 p.m., the fire department responded to front of the village hall for a hydraulic fluid leak from an LRS truck. Crews used oil absorbent for the spill and to keep fluid from entering the sewer. And on Wednesday, June 14th at 10:59 p.m., the fire department responded to the to Plymouth Place construction site for a construction worker who fell from a short platform. And that concludes the activity reports for both the fire and police department. President Scipio.
Thank you, Trustee Caputo.
Thank you.
Moving on to Public Works, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following is a monthly report for June. Staff replaced 1 lead water service line with copper pipe this month, along with the repair of 5 water main breaks. A modification kit on one fire hydrant was also completed. The village brush collection program continued this month and was conducted the first full week of the month. Brush collection will continue each month through October. Street patching and parkway restorations were completed from the utility excavations. The Village Arbor Day ceremony took place this month with the planting of a redbud tree in honor of retired LaGrange Park Police Officer Don Barkell. Staff had a training day with the start group for trenching and excavation practices. Some staff also attended training for ICS 300 and 400 through an IEMA in DuPage County of Homeland Security. A second round of mulch deliveries was offered and delivered to participating residents. Superintendent Jandik attended ACE, the AWWA National Water Conference hosted in Toronto. Staff participated in the Wounded Warrior Ride, assisting with blocking the route and cheering on participants. GIS work has continued collecting data on village-owned assets along with continued training throughout the village. Water meters were read in Section 3. 15 monthly bacterial water samples were taken. Various water and sewer work orders were completed, along with resident tree concerns and general construction inquiries. Routine maintenance of the department's fleet and equipment was performed, as well as on police and fire vehicles. Next, we have multiple change orders for the Park Road Water Main project. I think, Mr. President, the best way to do this is I'll read one, go to the motion, flip back up, go to two, go to the motion. Is that acceptable?
Certainly.
Thank you. The purpose is to consider 4 change orders to the Park Road Water Main project. General background: at the April 11, 2023 village work session meeting, the village board awarded a contract to Unique Plumbing Company Construction in the amount of $1,776,740 for the Park Road Water Main Replacement Project. The village budgeted $2 million in the water fund, capital outlay $500,7080500 for this project. Project construction is moving swiftly. All the water main is installed, pressure tested, chlorinated, sampled, and approved by the IEPA to begin making service connections, except connecting to lead service lines. Due to the complexity of this project, existing field conditions, and unfunded lead service line replacement mandates, staff is seeking approval from the board for the following change orders. Change order 1, storm inlet outlet pipe relocation, $16,399.55. 2 storm basin lines at the intersection of Park and Harding need road relocating. While placing the new main across Park, it became apparent that these 2 storm lines are connected to the main sewer at the same location as the new water main. The pressure of the new water main will eventually crush these sewer connections. The contractor supplied a time and material price to relocate these connections as a long-term solution to prevent failure. Therefore, Mr. President, I make a motion to approve change order number 1 with Unique Plumbing Company in the amount of $16,399.55 for stormwater pipe relocation.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan?
There's hiccups with every project the size of this magnitude, but this is forward thinking and it's going to save money in the long run. I support this.
Any other comments from the board?
I did have one question, Mr. President. Is this the type of thing that will be updated in GIS that will prevent these types of things in the future?
Moving forward, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward with this connection, yes, we can actually place those into GIS, but all the future or the current connections that are underground, we would not know where they're at because they're all blind tied into the main, so we would really not know exactly where those are at unless we go and televise all the sewers before a project and things like that. So,
But going forward, this is exactly what goes in GIS.
absolutely.
Great.
Trustee Zara?
I just want to verify one thing. We're, even with all these change orders, we're still under the budgeted amount, right? Yeah.
Correct.
All right, that was it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council? Yes. Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
Next, we'll go to change order number 2, water service tapping saddles. Water service tapping saddles are necessary as we are increasing the size of the service from the water main to the buffalo box from 1 inch to 1.5 inches. The service tap material are larger in size and according to the manufacturer's recommendations require a standard of 4 threads to screw these fittings into the main. However, this can't be achieved due to the increase in service size. In order to guarantee the integrity of the connection over the lifetime of the main, it is recommended to install these service saddles. Therefore, Mr. President, motion number 2 to approve change order 2 with Unique Plumbing Company in the amount of $13,231.37 for water service tapping sleeves.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan?
Rick, I don't know if you have anything more to add. It's just more volume at the main to the service. It's worth doing.
It's a lot of this has to do with because of the circumference of the pipe, and you're trying to screw that fitting in there. Because of that circumference, there's not enough threads to get it in there. So this is a long-term solution to add these saddles.
Any other comments?
I have a question,
Yes,
Rick.
Trustee Caputo.
Is this throughout or just on any improvements that you're doing to the water services, or is this throughout the whole village that you're doing this saddle project?
Oh, this is just on this Park Road project right now.
Okay, thank you.
Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
Next, change order 3, private lead service line replacements. In September of 2022, village engineers and staff updated the board on the lead service line replacement act. As part of this discussion, we asked the board to consider how to move forward with the replacement of private side lead service lines, with the consensus being to keep our existing ordinance putting the ownership on the individual homes. In our bid specifications for the Park Road project, the village secured bid pricing for individual homes to utilize this process for new services. However, the IEPA is now indicating that securing bid pricing is not an affordable method and that our process is not in agreement with the law. With that being said, the village is now being required to replace these services. If we do not comply, we won't be issued an operating permit for our project. Staff is seeking the village board to approve to move forward with replacing these services in the homes at above cost. Even after replacing these lead lines, our current project will remain under the budgeted amount. Therefore, motion number 3 to approve change order number 3 with Unique Plumbing Company in the amount of $136,000 for lead service line replacements.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure I'm not the only one up here sitting downstairs here too that this doesn't make any sense. I mean, we're elected to be the keepers of the finances and the purse strings for the village. We do our due diligence and try and keep costs down so that we can do other projects for our aging infrastructure, and then we get hit with something like this. So yeah, it's under budget, but this is $136,000 that we weren't expecting. And it's been, what I've been hearing is that it's only verbal communication and nothing's really been written. So I don't know, this is really upsetting to see this and to have to vote on this. We've got other projects in town, water main, that surely could use $136,000 that we didn't budget for, and this shouldn't happen. So.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, picking up on that conversation and concern, I totally agree. I mean, is this what we're looking at going forward? I mean, I suspect this is not just for this project. So I guess if you could elaborate a little bit more on, you know, the details of this, and is this something that we're going to have to take a significant look at? I mean, it sounds like on the surface, it's a major change in how we proceeded with water line replacements, the impact to the village, the impact to the residents. So maybe a little bit more information to talk this through for clarity.
I'm going to start by commenting on, regarding your questions. I think they're all great questions. I'll turn it back over to Mark in just a second to take kind of his first stab at it because he's been working on this with Rick. Going back to Trustee Sheehan's comments, I would say this. I couldn't agree with you more or you more. But the situation that we're dealing with Park Road is that we have a major construction project underway. We have an open permit with the IEPA, and they are saying that they're not going to approve our permit until the work is done in accordance with what they want. So the change order is really for, yeah, we don't like it, we don't agree with it, there's more work to do, and we're going to keep doing what we have to do to get the answers, and we certainly have. We have had multiple conversations with the IEPA, 2 conference calls, multiple emails. Jim and I met with Brad Cole of the IML last week in person to discuss the concerns about the difference in information and why the IEPA is making these determinations now when they had so much time to do that, and why it's so unclear and there's no communications. So what this is really dealing with is kind of going back to your question, Mike, is we really need to get this done so we can get this project done in the quickest, most safe manner as possible and get the work done, closed out, and permit closed out, and then we will continue our work on how these things, the private side of the service line gets funded in the future and continue the conversations. So I just wanted to make sure I made a comment back to what Mike was saying. So it's really more about what is the next step we need to take. Not happy with it, but we need to take it. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark.
So as it relates to the moving forward with these projects with water services, the IEPA's is it's village funded. We're allowed to have residents pay for their side. The term affordable is what is at discussion. They've determined that affordable is something that could be paid over 20 or 30 years by the resident, which the village would have to have that capital up front to pay for those. The issue that we have, we're facing on many of ours is not every home has a lead service. A number of homes have copper services. So as we presented back in September, we were sticking with our original plan and what you've had in place for a very long time. There's a private side and there's a public side. As we deal with the IEPA and the Illinois Department of Public Health, it's the interpretation of what's affordable, especially when we're using just village funding. If we were used state or federal funding, we're required to replace it because we're receiving grant money towards that. So we'll be required to replace private side and pay for the entire thing with no participation from a resident. The law is clear on that. Specifically on this project, we do have to move forward with this replacement of the lead service. How we look at these lead services going forward and paying for them as part of a capital project, we have to look at that and what's the overall approach we want to take. Is it part of a line item on the water service bill for lead service line replacements? Certainly it goes into when we have to start replacing these services in 2027. We have a 16-year period to pay for these. How do we pay for those as well? So we're reevaluating. We haven't stopped our conversation with the IEPA because there is the interpretation of affordable And we had a number of residents that were going to move forward with the lead, but we have to be consistent because we didn't have all of them participating in that. Some did not want to participate in the replacement of their lead service. The IEPA wouldn't accept the waiver form under the condition that was related to payment of the service. It has to be strictly about a property access, them denying you access to their property, and could have nothing to do with whether they paid for a service or not. So these are continuing conversations we're having with them. We're going to resolve them one way or another. I'm not going to say that we can resolve them in our favor, but it's not just a LaGrange Park issue. I can tell you from Rick's conversations and also other communities that we've been dealing with, it's kind of a surprise overall that this is how it's being interpreted and implemented this year. A lot of communities are facing the same thing. They have a similar process, similar policy as the village at this point with the separation of public and private. But we do have to evaluate how this is going to affect future capital projects.
Thank you, Mark. Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Mark sort of alluded to it, but we were approached by several communities. I don't know if we were the guinea pigs and how that rumor got out there, what occurred to us, but we are not, this is nothing that we came up with and we think that our rule is better, but other communities have all thought about the exact same thing. I even talked to Past Director McLaughlin, and that's what they were going to be doing in Clarendon Hills, and everybody's now having to change their direction. So fortunately it happened to us first, but there's more and more communities that are getting on board because we all felt that our interpretation was going to be sufficient to move forward with this project like we thought. So, you know, Mark and Julia and I, we meet consistently on this, and we are going to continue these discussions internally, and we plan on coming back to the board probably in September with an update like we have, and just keep you guys abreast of where we're going and how we can be moving forward. So.
Yeah, just to add to that, I know, Julia, you've been on top of it, Mark and Rick, we've discussed it with IEP on the phone, and you know, we're looking at $28 million over the course of the project for us to replace all the service lines that need to be replaced in LaGrange Park. I mean, this is as big as LGDF. 28 million is a lot, and my surprise is that, as you're saying, other communities, where's the uproar here? I mean, we should all be flabbergasted that this isn't going, you know, WCMC and maybe IML and aren't jumping on board, realizing that we're going to be stuck with this, and we can't afford it. Because if we pay for this, we're not going to pay for infrastructure improvements, and then we're going to be really lost.
Right.
So I think it's an ongoing thing. Julia, I thank you for bisecting or dissecting this out as a separate project, and we'll deal with the future as we get the legislators involved and see what we can do.
Can I just add one comment to what you were saying? I so appreciate the comments that you made because that is fundamental to this conversation. This mandate for many communities is absolutely unrealistic. There is no way to replace 6% of your lead service lines a year for what, 20 years? 17 years, even at 20, even at 30. It's not realistic. Communities should not have to make decisions between replacing lead and the capital improvements necessary to maintain your water systems for the community, for potable water. It's not realistic. I think when we talked with Brad Cole, he understands that. His goal is to get or secure more funding because that is what is necessary. We don't qualify for any loan forgiveness. A loan is not going to help us. There needs to be funding made available to the state and communities like ours. Otherwise, it's just not doable. They have to rethink this. That's my soapbox, but thank you. Your comments are absolutely on target.
Thank you, Julia. Any other comments regarding this?
Yes, President DeCipio.
Yes, Trustee
Thank
Council.
you. So going forward, this would apply to all lead service lines in the entire village, that they're saying they can define what's affordable, they being the IEPA, because they're not legislative. And if anybody needs to take this to them, it's the legislature. And if the legislature isn't willing to help the local communities out, then I think the legislature needs to hear from its constituents. So that's basically, in a nutshell, you know, we were rejected for some other projects. Federal funding, we have not gotten any. State funding, we haven't gotten back to the LGDF standard that we were at, and now they want us to do this. So I think, with all due respect, Julia, I agree with you, and I think that somebody needs to go to the EPA and say, hey, we're not going to do this. You want us to replace these lines, you're going to do it our way, because we can't afford it. And no matter how many years, you know, this project is going to go for, I can see this happening again and again for all of the projects, Rick. Am I correct in that?
Thank you, Trustee Council. Did you want to make a comment, Julia?
I was just going to make a quick comment that you can't, you know, in order to do this work, you have to get a permit, and the permit has several requirements, including the signatures of the public officials that have to sign off on the regulatory requirements. So we have to get the permits to do this work to secure the safety of the system. But your point is absolutely well taken. We have meetings with our legislators next week and the week after. We're certainly going to talk to them about it because they may not necessarily be aware of their interpretation of the IEPA, and so we'll make sure the legislators know that.
Trustee Sheehan, did you have a another comment?
Yeah, I thought Mr. Ratty was going to answer my question.
Yeah, as it sits now, yes. I mean, we would have to follow these rules and guidelines. Again, we're not happy with the outcome as well. You know, Julia and Jim met with Brad Cole. You know, he was on, you know, from my understanding, Julia, I mean, he wrote the law. I mean, it is a law. Unfortunately, the EPA and between the EPA and the Illinois Department of Public Health, they're the ones that are administering the law, making sure that everybody's following it. So, you know, is it going to be something that's going to be long term? It could be, but we're gonna fight. We're gonna express our concerns on this. I mean, this is just the beginning, so we need a little time to express ourselves, and hopefully we can get other communities on board, and we can hopefully get a little bit of understanding and clarity to what our interpretation is. So
that's it, Trustee Council. Thank you. Trustee Sheehan, do you have anything to add? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Yes.
Zara, sorry. Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
Next, we have change order 4, emergency water main break repair. During construction, Unique Plumbing uncovered the existing water main under Park at Richmond for the installation of the new main to cross below the existing pipe. While excavating to remove soil around the existing main, the main blew out, causing a large water main break. As the contractor was at the location, staff gave Unique permission to make the immediate repairs as the crew and equipment were on the job site already. Therefore, Mr. President, make a motion to approve change order 4 with Unique Plumbing Company in the amount of $3,000. Bless you. Okay, bless you. Start over. To approve the change order number 4 with Unique Plumbing Company in the amount of $3,028 for emergency water main break repair.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Common. As Rick and Mark will tell you, this is not uncommon. The earth was disturbed. Things like this happen. Pipe's not meant to give and take like that. So I support this. Thank God they were on the job and did a quick and professional repair as they always do.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart? Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Moving on to Finance Committee, Trustee Laudner.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have the finance report after the second month in our fiscal year, 23-24, as well as one item for discussion and action. First of all, the finance report fiscal year to date, general fund revenue is at 1.3 million or 11.5% of the annual revenue budget of 11.4 million. This amount is 140,000 and 9.7% less than for the comparable period last year. Property tax receipts are 36,000 or 131% greater than for the comparable last year, but that was due to the issues with Cook County tax extension and collections. And while it's anticipated that property tax receipt distributions should normalize this year, I think the recent information is that there may be some delays again as well, so we'll have to wait and see. Other local taxes were lower by 55,300 due again to the timing of receipts paid to the village by its various cable providers. The Finance Department is in the process of contacting providers as late payments have become a recurring issue with certain providers. I'm sure Mr. Knoller will be getting into that right after he joins the department. Intergovernmental receipts for the period were down 71,000 from last year. The primary cause for this variance are income tax receipts, which are 77,200 or 14% less than last year. Sales tax and use tax are both slightly ahead of last year, while receipts associated with excise tax, which is telecommunications related. License and permits receipts are 56,200 less when compared to the prior year, primarily due to a decrease in new construction permits compared to last year. The licenses component will increase as vehicle stickers will be on sale during the second quarter of the village's fiscal year, and it's anticipated that permit sales will again be strong during the current fiscal year. 191,000 has been budgeted for new construction permits, by the way, but estimating when the permits will be pulled is determined by suppliers and factors outside of the village's control. Charges for services and fines and forfeitures are combined 11,500 behind the comparable period for last year, and miscellaneous revenue is at 19,600 or 82.5% greater than last year. The increase in this category is almost entirely due to the increased interest earnings the village has earned on its funds prior to their being used for payments. And total general fund expenses, excluding the transfer to the capital projects funds, were at 14.1% of the annual budget and 256,200 or 21.7% greater than last year. And most importantly, all departments are within budget expectations. And as you can be assured, the Finance Department will continue to monitor the variances in revenues and expenses during the year. And I have one item for discussion and action, and it's regarding approving authorized signers for the village financial accounts. The village maintains accounts with financial institutions for the purpose of depositing and investing village funds, as well as utilizing general banking services such as checking for accounts payable and payroll. With the approval of Mr. Knoller as Finance Director Treasurer this evening, it is necessary to update the authorized signers for the village's financial accounts. 2 signatures are required on village accounts payable and payroll checks. Normally, those 2 signers are the Finance Director, Village Treasurer, and the Village Clerk. If either or both are unavailable, the Deputy Village Manager or Deputy Village Clerk may sign. And with our board packet was an attached ordinance designating the village's currently approved financial institutions and lists the authorized signers for village accounts. Staff certainly recommends approval of this requirement. So I would like to first of all submit a motion to approve an ordinance designating village depositories and investment institutions and authorized signers for the village of Grange Park, and to approve Fifth Third Bank multi-product resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion, Trustee Laudner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Straightforward. It's going back to the way it was for the most part prior to Mr. Noer's departure and now return. And as such, certainly fully support the moving forward with this.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Any other comments? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
And that concludes my report from the finance area this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Moving on to other reports, Village Clerk,
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
our Village Treasurer. Not here.
Not here.
Commercial Revitalization Committee, Trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. IDOT Survey and Interactive Map. The Illinois Department of Transportation is undergoing a statewide active transportation plan to create a vision and identify measures to improve walking and biking infrastructure throughout the state. The project includes various community engagement activities to hear from residents with the goal of understanding the current conditions of walking and biking in the state and identifying needs of Illinois residents. The Grange Park residents can take IDOT's survey online and also indicate the locations of safety or connectivity concerns on an interactive map. Please visit idotillinois.gov for more information. Commercial Revitalization Committee. Our next CRC meeting will take place on Tuesday, August 22nd at 6 p.m. at Village Hall. Businesses and members of the public are invited to attend and provide input on how the village can best support new and existing business and enhance the commercial areas in LaGrange Park. Village staff will also provide updates on implementation of the Village Market Streetscape Improvement Plan and the redevelopment study plan for certain properties on 31st Street and Grange Road in the Business Development District. And that concludes my report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Our Village Engineer. Our Village Attorney.
I have no report, Mr. President.
Motion to approve Committee and Collectors Report is presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I have a couple items. One, I'd like to congratulate Chief and his staff and the department on the car show. I heard it was a phenomenal event. So please extend that to everyone and thank you for their work. Julie and I attended the IML conference last weekend. It was a great conference from Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We came away with a lot. We got to meet with Brad Cole privately, and hopefully that will pan out. I have a proclamation to read first, National Night Out 2023, which is actually a week from tonight, correct? Whereas the National Association of Town Watch is sponsoring a unique nationwide drug and violence prevention program on Tuesday, August 1st, 2023, entitled National Night Out. Whereas National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the Village of LaGrange Park to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. Whereas the Village of LaGrange Park's Police Department plays a vital role in assisting the Cook County Sheriff's Department and other law enforcement agencies through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in the Village of LaGrange Park and is supporting National Night Out 2023 locally. Whereas it is essential that all citizens of the Village of LaGrange Park be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in the Village of LaGrange Park. Whereas the police community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are important themes of the National Night Out program. Therefore, be it proclaimed August 1st, 2023, be recognized as National Night Out in the Village of LaGrange Park. And we look forward to a phenomenal evening, Chief. Okay, next I have for discussion only the proposal for lobbyist services provided by the TAP Public Affairs Strategies Group. When Julie and I met a couple weeks ago to a month ago, and we had found out that we were not receiving any funding, and we met with Congressman Garcia and bounced some things off him. Julia came, I give credit here to Julia, with a brilliant idea of maybe we should consider hiring a lobbyist. And that's where we are today. So the village has spent considerable time and resources on advocating for grant funding and non-monetary support for its priority projects. While village staff and elected officials are committed to their work in meeting with legislators and other taxing bodies to advocate on issues of concern, the village could benefit from additional focused efforts of a lobbyist on its most critical priorities. Those priorities may include, but are not limited to, funding for the Central Area Stormwater Project. The village must assemble the funding necessary to complete this project. We have $2 million saved and we can borrow a portion of the total cost starting in 2026. However, we need the remaining costs covered by grant funds, congressional, legislative, MWRD, shared funding, or otherwise. This is our priority project as we do not anticipate that the impacts of flooding will go away. Second priority, seeking support for traffic calming measures on IDOT roads with the Commercial Revitalization Committee. The village is looking to lower the speed limit on the Grange Road to 25 miles per hour from the current 30 and install a signaled intersection on Woodlawn. The area needs public safety and pedestrian enhancements. We want support from IDOT in addressing our concerns, and we want greater local control and input. And the third, which we just talked about, the lead service line replacement act. There's insufficient funding for this unfunded state mandate. The cost for lead service line replacement in the Grange Park is significant and must be completed in 17 to 20 years. Recent information from the IEPA is that currently interpret the law in a manner such that we are unable to charge residents contractor pricing for the portion of the service line on the property. This item is for discussion only. If there's interest in pursuing services, the village board should discuss next steps for evaluating consulting firm. When we discussed this preliminarily, the first name that came to our mind was Mike Zaleski, who is past House Representative. Mike knows all the context down there. He knows all the legislators. He's familiar with us up here. We thought he would be a logical choice. I'd be more than happy to have him come here and address the board and present his outline for us, or if the board wants to go in a different direction, we can certainly do that too. So, Trustee Zora.
I just had a couple questions. When we were in Springfield, we did meet with another lobbyist that represents another local municipality, and I was just wondering, excuse me, why we didn't look into him.
I can't remember who that is.
Nibel.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris Nibel.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, can we get proposals from
Both.
a couple? Yeah. I mean, he seemed to be doing well for them, and I mean, I'm definitely not opposed to this. We have a lot of big things we need, and no one's giving them to us. So I think it would help if we have someone in their ear down there to help us out. So I think it's a great idea. I just would like to see maybe somebody else too.
Okay. Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I concur with Trustee Zara. I think that something like this to benefit the village as a whole, I think maybe we should consider at least going for RFP or have 3 or 4 firms that maybe we should go with. It's kind of heartening to think that in a few weeks it's going to be 6 years since our previous lobbyist, Mr. Ganschow, left this earth, and I think staff has done a pretty good job through the years to at least get bacon bits of some of the pork that's available in Springfield. But I definitely think that this would be a move in the right direction. I would just like to see other proposals. I did do some work online today in preparation for this. North Riverside did just renew, I think, a contract with Nibel and Associates at their last July meeting. The price that's listed here in his contract proposal does seem fair. But again, I would just like to look at a couple. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. President, I would make one comment. I would like to just make a comment in reference to Trustee Sheehan's comment. I do agree. We did do back in 2017 or 16, we did a cost comparison of lobbyist services, and the pricing that we received in the TAF proposal is pretty low to fair as compared to the pricing that other municipalities were paying for their lobbyist services. And just by way of comparison, our most recent contract with Chris Ganschow was about $28,500 a year.
Trustee Council?
Thank you, President DeCipio. I did have a question regarding the term. You know, how long are we looking at having a lobbyist, and also to the extent that we've taken a bite at the apple a couple of times with regard to some of these projects. You know, what is the benefit of employing a lobbyist to go after the same thing that basically we've gone after? Thank you.
I can try and answer it. They're going to maintain a focus on interests of our concern. So if we need funding, they're going to be there and be present, watchful, looking for any funding opportunities that might happen, and be aware of them first before anyone. They help write support letters for funding. They remind our legislators that this is something that is critically important and continue to remind them. They're pounding the message, right? As an example, there were a few years ago, some funding came loose from the Army Corps of Engineer grant program. It was, I think, $500,000, and we were able to secure that through the efforts of our lobbyists, as well as letters of support for a number of other projects, and keep our community in the minds of our representatives and our senators constantly. So it's really just a matter of making sure that people know who we are and what our problem is. Sometimes those issues get forgotten because other issues in other communities make the papers and foreshadow the issues that we have. So we don't necessarily get coverage on the things that affect our residents, and so maybe people think they're not as critical in LaGrange Park, but a lobbyist can certainly keep that at the forefront of the minds of our legislators. Mike was a preliminary but very effective idea because he knows all of our legislators so well. He lives in Riverside. He understands the issues of flooding. He understands the particular topography here, the community here, and would know, and because he served on the Finance and Administration Committee, he would be particularly knowledgeable about who the people would be to make contact with regularly and what kinds of programs might be available. Hopefully that addressed.
Yeah, you did great. I spoke with the speaker about this when we were at the IML conference, just to throw it past him and say what's his thought. We're on Michael, and the speaker was 100% behind Zaleski. Now, I didn't ask him about NIBO, so I don't know, but I'm more than willing to go and solicit 2 or 3 lobbyists and have them present a proposal.
I would like to see that.
Second. Is that a motion, Trustee Council?
Do I need to make a motion?
No. It sounded like one, though. Right.
We can't make a motion, it's not on the agenda.
Trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly concur with my fellow trustees that it's always good, I think, to look at 2 or 3 options. I think Mike Zaleski does have a unique position of, I'll say, working with a lot of those individuals and a lot of contacts, but I think we owe it to the community to take a look at it. I certainly support the concept. The return on investment we've seen can be, very, very high, and as such. And I think there's some things in the initial proposal from Taft that certainly would warrant some questions. But let's take a look at what all other offers might be there and select the most favorable for the community.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Trustee Zora? Or Trustee Jermaine? Yes, Stewart?
Thank you, Mr. President. So is this sort of moving forward, or is this just because we have so many big initiatives coming up?
It came about when we were declined and didn't receive any funding. We felt we had everything in place. And the staff worked as diligent and as hard as they possibly could. So we thought, what could get us over the hump? What do we need to do? And Julia came up with the brilliant idea, well, maybe we should secure a lobbyist that's familiar down there that can get us over that edge to secure some of this funding.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of the other trustees on this, and I think the 29,000 or whatever was a quote that you threw out there. I think that's well worth the investment. They're able to help us out with some of this funding.
For Trustee Stewart's benefit, we had Chris Ganshaw was our lobbyist for a while, and he brought in like $7 million. Did he bring in?
I couldn't comment
it was very,
the total amount.
It was well worth the price that we were paying him for what we received in return. When Chris passed away, we felt we didn't need that benefit anymore. But now that things are getting more involved, more expensive, and it's harder to get these funds, we felt we needed something to spark us over that. And we feel a lobbyist can do that, so whoever we select, hopefully will do that.
So does this also apply to some of the grants that you all are putting the paperwork and resources together for as well? Or is it just, are these just the initial priorities and they're limited to these items?
I think initially the thought was to hire a lobbyist to maintain a very specific focus on the highest priorities, but we can certainly, the more that you add to their plate, the more the potential's there that the more diluted the effort on,
Sure.
on one of the issue, right? And so I think the concern was we have done just about everything you can possibly do to get the funding for this flooding issue. We held a legislators meeting with the residents regarding flooding. We've met with all of the legislators seeking support for funding. I serve on an IML committee. Jim now serves on the IML board. The village board goes down every spring for lobby day. We're doing all the right things. We need something to, like President DeCipio said, gives us the edge, takes us over the top. We need this funding. And the thought is they would be able to provide that consistent, touch to it. The other issue is the unfunded mandate, right? We've seen unfunded mandates, right? Chiefs, you've seen unfunded mandates. No one has ever seen an unfunded mandate like the Lead Service Line Replacement Act. It is just insurmountable for us. And so if we had a lobbyist, this is the opportunity to help them understand why this doesn't work. And particularly if they know members of the legislature or had been one, they can explain, I've looked at the math, it really doesn't work. Something must be done. And so that's kind of the thought. So it really should be used for high priority projects. But even all the years that we had Chris Ganchow, every year Dean was still putting in all the work for the FEMA grants. He did all of that work himself. He secured those grants himself. The police department secured their, Department of Justice or the Cook County grants, and all the departments kind of did their own work with regard to those grants. I think where a lobbyist can be very effective is making sure that the legislative discretionary and congressional discretionary funds that are available but are very competitive can be brought back to the taxpayers of this town. I think that's where they have the edge. And that's where we've seen a difference with our name in the Capitol bill, right? Or in receiving congressional funds. We got the generator through a congressional discretionary grant. It went through FEMA, right? But it was still a decision by a congressperson to be able to grab that money for us. And we've had some roads done too.
Just lastly, do we have any insight as to what other communities are doing to try to address this lead service problem, whether it's a lobbyist, whether it's, I know that's a very sort of open-ended question, but I feel like everybody's in the same boat together. So there has to be some sort of collaboration or some way to deal with this, as it's not unique to the Grange Park.
The only thing I could say is that, we're probably going to start hearing what more and more people are going to be doing, because again, this is so fresh to us. This is 2 or 3 weeks old, right? As more and more people hear what's going on, I talked to Baxter and Woodman. They're a pretty large engineering firm as well. They represent LaGrange. LaGrange was doing the same thing. They're going to start doing some research on other communities to find out who was going to do their lead service line replacement the way we were going to. So, you're going to start seeing some movement here in the next few months to find out what everybody's doing and what they were anticipating, so we can then bring those things up to different people.
Yeah, Trustee Stewart, I think that's a great question too, in that this is a collaborative effort. You know, it's not just us, and it's not, but the groundswell hasn't happened yet, and that's what surprises me. And I think it's a WCMC issue. I think it's an IML issue. I think it's a state of Illinois issue that we need to get all the other communities and start raising Cain and say, what's going on here? We can't afford to do this. So you're right, it's a collaborative effort. They just haven't found out yet. That's why we have such a great staff, see? We're ahead of the game already. Jamie, Trustee Stewart, did you have a question? Are you done, Trustee Stewart?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily pertaining to the issue. I meant just the overall project itself.
Right.
You know, outside of the additional, the affordability and the issue that we just came up with recently. So.
Only thing I was going to comment, and this is kind of, we're off topic now, but is that if we get a lobbyist, they use all of their connections, which we don't have access to. So I think that is really critical to getting us help.
Okay, everybody on board?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Moving on. Where are we at here? Public participation, don't see any new business? No closed session, motion to adjourn. Oh, wait. Does anybody feel the groundswell yet? August is coming. August is coming. Somebody's getting married in August. Somebody's getting married in August, and congratulations, Maggie. You're going to float in here after you get married. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have a great week.
Thank you.